So thank you guys so much for coming. I'm just gonna test if this is working because, you know, I work for an IT company and it was 3 of us who tried to actually make this thing work, and then we figured out that it was turned off, but you know, it happens. So, product research when you just need to know. To kick it off, I would just like to know a little bit about you, the audience. Is there anyone who's doing like product design, research, graphic design, anything like this at the moment? No, yes, 2 people. Good, fantastic. That's great because the talk is more or less concerned or around very basic things you can do if you want your product to be successful. And you want to make sure that you test your product with your audience. Because designing without research is basically like getting into a taxi and just saying, drive, go somewhere, we will see how it will go, maybe it will be fine, but maybe it will be not, probably not. And one of my favorite gifts I always show to stakeholders when they're saying that, you know, research is useless and we shouldn't do it. This is one of my favorites, you know, even very, very simple thing can always surprise you, and you can find very, very different use cases and things you have not been thinking about before that. So, yeah, effective research, tips and tricks. What could you do? Probably you have already heard the sentence of, yes, you are not the user. I see some rolling eyes in the back. So yes, unfortunately it is like this. But that's not what I want to talk about here or what I want to pass on, because I think definitely you know more about that. And when I was thinking a little bit more about what to tell you, what to show you here on the research side, fintech products or any other products, even hardware products, you know, we can always go through different graphs. Yeah, I can tell you, okay, yeah, we have something analytic, descriptive, tactical, strategic, blah, 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 blah. It's a lot. And even I get lost in it sometimes. And that's perfectly fine. Why I structured this talk this way was mainly to show you that you probably at some point in the cycle, in the development cycle, did some sort of research. You just didn't know that it has some fancy name in the research. And why we do or why we don't do research in product cycles. Usual problems are that we don't have time, we don't have enough money, people don't know what they want, our product is super innovative, nobody ever saw it, so I don't need people to have a look at it because it's something new. Or we'll do it later on, we'll do it next time. I just need to, you know, a lot of times what I'm hearing from stakeholders is, I just want to see some idea how the application is actually going to look like, and then we can do some research afterwards. We never do research afterwards, never. So, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with Nielsen-Norman group here. Yes, a few people, perfect. If you're not, I definitely recommend. They have a website full of articles, videos, everything is for free. If you want to get better in the user experience, they also have some courses you can take. This is not a paid advertisement, but yeah, if they're listening, they can. Anyways, this September, they published the results of one very interesting study they did when they were asking people what are the main barriers why we don't do research, why we don't do product research, why we are not more concerned about how our product will actually look like, what it will do, if people will be satisfied or not. The main reasons are limited time, difficult to find participants, limited budget, leadership team doesn't support research efforts, missing research skills, or team does not use research findings, which is all super understandable. I get every single point. But here today, I would like to talk mostly about limited time and limited budget, as those two are sort of the most common I have come across in my career. But what is the problem, of not actually doing some sort of research or not trying to find out how the product will work at the very end? The biggest problem comes from the top to the bottom, because usually, and I'm going to be very honest, even in our products in Vacuumlabs, we are not 100% research-centric, which is fine, but we are getting there. We are at least acknowledging it. But the problem comes from the top, leadership priorities. Leaders or your owners usually, they're not that interested in, paying some researcher, somebody who has a PhD in psychology, okay, talk to 5 people and tell me what's wrong about my product. Yeah, their usual things I'm hearing is like, oh, I don't care what one 55-year-old guy in an interview told me that this is not working or whatever. Fine, that's also understandable. But then this attitude is passed to all your colleagues and their priorities. Developers, front-end, back-end, product owners, project managers. Everybody is super busy doing their work. They don't have time to look at your fancy slides that you're trying to tell them something about the product they're actually all putting together and should care about. The biggest issue I see is in the project itself, because usually the roadmap or the schedule of a project or the backlog is actually not counting with any sort of research from the very start. So you will not find it. You would not find it there because it's not considered as something super crucial or super important to be shown in a roadmap. And then it comes to your own priorities as a researcher. You also have some other tasks you need to work on, and the research is slowly getting smaller and smaller. Cool, so if we have a look on not enough time to check how my product is looking, or the biggest or the most common alternatives I can recommend to you are this, you can see here on this slide. So the first one is desk research. That's basically something you can do just from your desk, having a look at the competitors, at any similar products, application, whatever that is out there on the market. Then videos, day in a life of someone, guerrilla testing, family and friends, analytics and data input at research repositories. When we talk about guerrilla testing, this is what I meant when I said that you probably did this at some point in your product cycle. You just probably didn't know that it's called this way. And here on the pictures, I'm showing you those are actually from my research practices where I already worked for a couple of companies. And one of the companies was Czech startup selling tickets. Airline tickets, and the product was quite unique. But as it was a startup, we didn't have that much money for research. It was only 2 researchers on board, and usually we were more used like data scientists, to be honest, than any sort of researchers. So how we were using our time, as you can see on the left bottom picture, was that any chance we got to travel to partner's office, different conference whatsoever, I always went to a coffee place, usually Starbucks, because that's where everyone goes. I just post a sign, hey, hi, ask me for a free coffee, and for spending 5 minutes with me, talking to me about whatever question we had at that point from our product owners, I bought them a free coffee. Very quick, very sort of cheap, if they didn't, pick pumpkin spice latte or something. But anyways, another. Go where your users are. Same company. We had the biggest problem we had once we answered the most basic questions was that we saw a big difference between how people behave in a controlled environment, when we invite them to our lab, when we talk to them for an hour, when we're testing something with them, or when we are doing an unmoderated test and the user is doing that from their couch at home. But the situation was very different when it actually came to using the outcome of the product, which was the travel itself. And at that point, people are stressed. Any issue that happens, any problem, obviously that's your fault as a company. So we needed to understand a little bit more about what's going on at these specific points. So what we actually did one day was that, again, I heard from my product owner that, we don't have that much time to find out how this works. We don't have money to fly you somewhere to an airport and talk to people. So we just took a car, Vienna airport, quite big, quite close from Brno. And we just went to the Vienna airport, sit there for half a day, and, talk to people about their process, about how they're traveling, where they are traveling, which site they use to book the tickets, if there were any problems, any issues, how do they feel currently, if they like traveling, if they not. And it was super successful, I must say. It was really, really great experience. One of my last favorite memories as a researcher is stealing the spotlight. Previously, I used to have one client, one Japanese client, big company. They've been on the market for 200 years. And they traditionally were producing hardware more than any software. But at some point, even though it was a little bit late, they realized that hardware is not going to get that big in the future, so they wanted to move on to the software world. And they created this sort of hybrid solution of a printer with software for managing your office. Yeah, good, bad, you can think what you want. The point was that they had absolutely no idea who are the people that are actually using this, and also I had no idea who would be a person who would want the printer that is managing your office, even though it sounds cool, a little bit futuristic. But I wanted to know more, and they hired me as a researcher. The company hired me. They were paying me to do this. But the thing was that sales department had the only ownership of talking to the clients. So I couldn't talk to any client without having a salesperson present, without having the client, in the offices, making them coffee, making them feel amazing. Yeah, that's not working in research. So what I did was not definitely not nice, but in Japanese culture, it's not that common. I learned that hard way. But I approached the director of the project directly, saying like, hey, I think some things are not working that great. Why don't you come to our office here, because the product was developed here in Brno in Czech Republic. Why don't you come here and we go to a client together, have a look how it's working or how it's not working. And they actually came. A whole delegation of 8 people came from the main office in Tokyo. And for me, it was a super amazing experience. even though we learned that the product is more or less useless, and shortly after that, they stopped developing it. But anyways, you know, stealing the spotlight from somebody or taking a leap and trying to do your best to find out if what you're doing is actually meaningful, because, you know, I'm still that naive that I hope that the things I'm producing at work are meaningful for some people. So I wanted to have this as well. And it was really cool, you know, we went on for a trip. Afterwards, they invited me to the Tokyo office. I spent 2 weeks in Japan thanks to that, so it's definitely worth to make a risk or take a risk. Okay, no money. That's another thing that us as a researchers or designers on, or service designers on projects, we have to face. And actually, one quote from one of my favorite researchers, she's a senior manager in Oracle in Canada. When I was a junior researcher, and she held a presentation here in Brno, and she said, you know, for us user experience people, and especially researchers, it's super hard to work anywhere, because we are actually the enemies of the company. We are the enemy of the product. We are getting paid by the company, but we are the people who come to you and tell you, no, this is not working, this is complete S, and just know, we need to redesign it, we need to find out more answers. So I think that's something really good to think about as well. Well, anyways, back to the topic. No money. So usually, something around the half of the companies, they have no idea how much money they have on the research. That's probably because they don't do any research. So what are the alternatives you could do when you want to find out if your product, project, application, whatever, is working and you don't have that much money? Some very basic things you could do are obviously reviews, reading reviews online, social listening, or social measurement, that's just a very fancy word for basically online stalking, you know, Facebook, Twitter, whatsoever. It's full of people using something and being dissatisfied with it or satisfied with it, and you can learn a lot without actually paying for some sort of research. Employee ethnography. What does that mean? It actually means that if you work for a bigger company, you have some product, you make those people who create the product or sell the product actually use it. And that's also a great opportunity. Again, in the startup that was selling airline tickets, you know, I was always hearing in the kitchen area during lunch, or, you know, when you went outside for a smoke break, coffee break, whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, this customer is, you know, complaining so much, he missed the flight, it's his fault, why should we care? So we were like, okay, cool. One of the company benefits was that company was giving you a voucher once a year to fly somewhere. So we made one condition with that if you're going to use it, you have to participate in the employee ethnography. Meaning that you will actually tell us all the time what you're doing, how you're feeling, how's it going. For privacy reasons, I unfortunately cannot show you the video we made of it, but it's perfect. And one of the great things was, especially for the developers, that they had an opportunity to see that things can go wrong, that they can stay in London overnight without actually having accommodation, an airport closing at midnight, and the next flight they offered to them was at 6 a.m. So, not that good. But they learned the hard way, and it works. Groups, Reddit, Facebook, Slack, there are tons of groups of people who are super keen, super interested in something that you're already doing, you're already producing, and they're willing to talk to you for free, which is amazing. So use that opportunity, find those 15 minutes. That's not that hard. Published reports as well. I'm not saying that you have to read some, 180 pages PhD dissertation or whatever, but for example, right now in Vacuumlabs, we focus mostly on fintech projects. And one of the clients we currently have is trying to build sort of a Revolut, let's call it, sort of a Revolut bank, you all know, the neobank, in Southeast Asia. And obviously there was no time, no money for research, but still, I had some ideas how the product could be improved. And one of the suggestions was, let's put some sort of gamification in the application. But to present this to the stakeholders, I needed, some arsenal or something to show him, yes, this actually works, and people pay attention to it. So I was browsing some published reports already, found one that suited perfectly. Can gamification improve financial behavior? Bam, just like that, cost me nothing, just internet connection. Desk research and observation. If we stay at the story with the same client, the neobank in Southeast Asia, same story again. They wanted to quickly see something, so there was not that much time to research something, to go somewhere, to talk to some people. And they were specifically saying that they do not want to build their application on what 5 people said. So, but they still wanted to know what are the biggest problems of the people in Southeast Asia when it comes to banks. Because one of the outcomes from the research they did previously, market research, obviously, was that more than a half of people in Southeast Asia, specifically Philippines, are unbanked or underbanked, meaning they have no bank account at all. Not even talking, having a bank account and then an application. No bank account at all. They just, get paid, get the check, or just get the money weekly basis. So we couldn't fly to Philippines because of the time reasons and budget reasons as well. Combination of those two is always perfect. So I had to do a little bit digging on the internet and have a look, again, what are the problems of these people that we could tackle. And one of the things I found out was the internet connection at Philippines sucks. For example, if somebody was in Thailand, that's also not the best country when it comes to internet speed, but the internet speed is 6 times slower in Philippines, and the coverage is mainly centered around the capital and the bigger cities. So what to do? So I had a look on different videos of people talking about these problems, did some sort of observation. All of this was done from desk, so that's why it's called desk research. And I found a lot of content, where people are actually climbing to the trees. This guy, he works as a support agent, so when you call, you have a problem, call someone. Obviously, they pick up in Philippines because it's cheaper. But in order for him to talk to help you with the issue, he had to climb on the tree to help the customer because that's the only place at his house where the internet connection is more or less okay, Or the lady on the left, she was talking how COVID hit them hard because they had to start buying vegetables because they needed the money to buy mobile data for their kids to actually be able to go to school and have better opportunities in life. So what to do with this? So one of the many suggestions we did, apart from the gamification I already mentioned, was to create a banking application that would actually work offline. Obviously, not all the functionalities would be available, but at least you would still have direct access to your money, still could work with it, even though there's no internet connection whatsoever. Cool. Context. One of the last things. This is a talk. Right now, I'm the one who's doing mostly the talking, so let's switch that a little bit. I have one question for you, or one task. So a survey has been conducted in a company to find out the rate of vaccinated employees. Survey showed that 80% of the employees is vaccinated. Survey was submitted by 70% of the employees. What is the percentage of the vaccinated employees? Anyone? No idea. Yeah.
Can I have a question? How was the 80% chosen?
What do you mean 80% chosen?
Was it uniformly distributed, or was it just some randomly or whatever?
Perfect. Yeah, I will get to your question a little bit later. So, just what percentage of the people or of the employees was vaccinated, more or less? Yes, something around that. Why it's very important and why I like these challenges as a researcher was that it was, again, I was working for one client during the COVID, and they conducted this company-wide survey of how many people are vaccinated so we can open again the offices. And they proudly presented to the board that 80% of the employees is vaccinated. Wow, okay, amazing, we can return to the offices. Is that actually the case? No, because you always have to look, what I wanted to show by this was that you always need to have a look at the bigger picture of what is going on. You know, from the survey, from the pool of people you had in the company, only 70% of people actually submitted the survey. So then, there it goes, 30% of the people in the company you don't know, they might be not vaccinated. And out of those 70%, only 80 is vaccinated. So definitely saying out loud to the board and opening an office based on this, saying that 80% of the employees are vaccinated, perfect, we can reopen. That's sort of a risk, hazard they played because it was concerning health, but again, it was their choice. You have to look at the bigger picture. I'm really sorry that this picture is this small. I had it bigger, but the presentation was redesigned a little bit. Anyways, what it's shown on the picture is how trajectory or how fast people are running throughout different years for 100 meters. Yeah, so racing. What are the world records for run in 100 meters? Yeah, in the time. From this graph, you could see that over the time, you know, the first one is from 1942, and the last one is 2007. From this graph, it could look like that we probably, as a humanity, are hitting our limits of how fast we could run 100 in those 100 meters. Yeah? But if you play a little bit with the visualization, the story is completely different. This is the same graph, just different visualization. The problem, what is the problem with the first graph? Anyone? Yes, it's hard to read, mostly because it's so small. That's on me. But, you know, again, you have to look at the other side of the story. The other side of the story here is that they are not showing you same year differences between each other. You know, we have 1968, then we jump to 83, 88, 91, 94, 99, but then suddenly we switch to year basis, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. So in the other visualization, we can clearly see that we are still getting better. So probably we are not hitting the limits. We are not close to the limit on how fast we can run those 100 meters. You just need to have a little bit of a think about the information you're reading, you're seeing on what's presented, you know, from your data scientists. This is super, super small, I know. Apologies again, but I'll try to explain. This one is a graph from public elections in Slovakia, last public parliamentary elections in Slovakia. One of the parties that was trying to get in was called Sieť. And this is how they were presenting their, you know, percentage or how many people would vote for them throughout the period of time from September to January. What's wrong with this graph? Yes, something's wrong. I'm giving you the first hint. What's wrong with it? Any ideas? Because, you know, this way, if I would see this somewhere, this was actually posted on their social media, I would say, oh wow, such a huge increase, so many people are interested in them, you know, might be good to vote for them. Not trying to do any political agitation right now. So, ideas? What could be improved about this graph, or what is not that correct here?
The difference probably doesn't start from 0.
Bingo, bango. Because this is actually, if we would start from the 0, or actually apply the same measurement they were using at the start on all graph, suddenly it's saying or telling you a completely different story. That the change is not that big, the difference is not that big. Again, you know, context is really everything. By this, I wanted to, you know, talk a little bit about potential issues that you could avoid when you're talking to your users or to people in the office that actually use the application you're developing or trying to put out on the market. Because if you do that knowingly, the bias, then it's obviously manipulation. If you do it unknowingly, that's perfectly fine. I do it a lot. Even though my title says Senior UX Researcher, I still have a long, long way to go, and I'm learning from my mistakes. That's the most important thing. Bias and extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. That's just a super fancy word for internal and external motivation. So why I'm showing this, why I'm telling you this is that it's always, when you're talking to people, either about your product or just, you know, family conversation. One hint, psychology hint I can give you, is to always have a little bit of a think, what is the motivation of that person telling you that? If it's something internal, intrinsic, or something external, extrinsic. Because those are two completely different things, and they can switch really quick, and the answers can be very, very different. Okay, I'm not sure how we are with the time, more or less. Okay. Practice makes perfect. So asking the things right or asking the right thing. Again, here I have a little bit of an exercise on how you could ask better questions about your products or the things you're developing. So any suggestions on any of these questions, how they could be improved or how they could be changed to get, more of an honest and unbiased opinion? Don't make me talk all the time, please.
What do you think about the idea?
Mm-hmm. How would you change it?
So, what do you think about the idea? So, not to say that what is the question.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, because if you're, setting some sort of a mantinel for the person you're talking to, you're already telling them sort of, or unveiling your position against that idea. Oh, this is a fantastic idea. So what do you think about this amazing idea? So obviously I don't want to be mean, so I'm going to tell you, yeah, quite okay. Yeah, it's good, nice. Yeah, you can publish it, and then I would never use it, but I'm not going to tell you that. Any other improvements to any of these questions?
Second one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't understand this, what was unclear? Taking the
Mm-hmm.
sense of inferiority away from the question.
Yeah, so you did not understand this, and what did you not understand about this? Like that, yeah?
Or even what is unclear about this?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Rather
better. How I would twist it a little bit more to make it even less biased would be, was anything unclear, or obviously depends on the context, but was anything unclear or was everything clear? Because in these sort of questions, it's very good when you put both of the mantinels on the side. So the users know that you are accepting both options, that you are accepting honest feedback saying, this is complete bullshit, I'm not going to use it, or this is amazing, I want this. Let's do one more. Anyone?
I think most of the questions are quite personal, and so I would make them more diplomatic, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, what would you pay extra for the drawing? I would just reform it like, how much do you think it's worth, or like not treating it so personal.
Mm-hmm. How much do you think it's worth? Yes, of course, that's much better. But again, you're a little bit telling to that person that you already have in your mind that this is your idea, it's worth something, so tell me how much. But they can think also that it's worthless. Yeah, okay, so no more pressure on you. I'm happy to talk about any of this later on if you want, so just catch me. And as it was very sort of a research 101, how to. So if you're interested on the topic, I know that probably some of you already read these books, but if you're interested on the topic and want to know, just enough to succeed with this, I definitely recommend this is a #1 must-read for all researchers, obviously, but also people out of research, from Erica Hall, Just Enough Research. And then one more cool book that goes around how to form correct questions when talking to users, or even your family members, because that, let's be honest, that can also be very challenging sometimes. This one is from Rob Fitzpatrick, the mom test. And he even developed sort of a method that he's calling the mom test. Anyone knows this one, how it works? No? Okay, do we have time to play the video? Yeah? Cool. So I'm gonna play you a video after to show you a little bit more on that. And last thing is do these really cheap, easy, quick, and very understandable design and research packs, which are not really, trust me, only for researchers or designers. They're for all product people, development people, either for English-speaking people, CMD method packs, or actually here from Brno, Masaryk University also created their own method pack called Tvorzte jako designery. So I definitely recommend those to get them. Again, not paid advertisement. Cool, the mom test. So just to quickly give you an idea what it's going to be about. So he really took his time and did his research on how to postulate correct questions or how to ask better questions or how to do that. So let's have a look.
We're told, don't ask your mum if your business idea is a good one. She'll just say yes. Because she loves you, of course. The mum test is a set of simple rules for crafting good questions that even your mum can't lie to you about. Let's have 2 conversations and see what we can learn. Mum, I've got a business idea. Can I tell you about it? Of course, dear. You like your iPad, right? Do you use it a lot? Yes. OK. So would you ever buy an app which was like a cookbook for your iPad? And it only cost £20. That's cheaper than your hardbacks on the shelf. Well, and you can share recipes with your friends. And there's an iPhone app which is your shopping list. And videos of that celebrity chef you love. Yes, dear. That sounds amazing. £20 is fine. Will it have pictures of the recipes? Yes, definitely. Thanks, Mum. I'm going to quit my job and put all my savings into my new startup. Won't you have some lasagna? That conversation led us down the garden path. The mum test is about talking to your customers about their life, not your idea. It's about discussing specifics in the past instead of generics or opinions about the future. It's about talking less and listening more. Let's do it again right this time. Hey, Mum, how's the new iPad? Oh, I love it. I use it every day. What do you usually do on it? Oh, you know, read the news, play Sudoku, catch up with my friends. What's the last thing you did on it? Well, Dad and I are off on holiday. I was looking where to stay. Did you use an app for that? No, I just used Google. What app should I use? How did you find out about the other apps you have? The Sunday paper has a section on the apps of the week. Makes sense. By the way, I saw a couple of new cookbooks on the shelf. Where did those come from? Oh, they're one of those things you just end up getting at Christmas. I think Doreen gave me that one. Haven't even opened it. As if I need another lasagna recipe at my age. Time to refine my idea. We discovered many insights in that conversation to help us adjust our idea. It just goes to show, if you can get useful business information from Mum, you can get it from anyone. The Mum test.
Perfect. So as we could see, same story, but different outcome. And here you can also see why he's calling it the mom test, because if you passed actually the test of asking unbiased questions to your mom, then you can ask those to anyone, verified obviously by him. So the last thing I want to leave you with is obviously support your researchers or your experienced people on your teams more. Do more research. But just be aware that the fact of knowing something or not knowing something or only assuming, can always change. It's a life process. And what I was trying to pass on here was that you don't need that much time or money to actually make sure that your product, idea, whatever, will lead to a success, will end up successfully. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it wasn't super boring or super basic or super difficult. If you have any feedback, questions, I'm more than happy to answer them right now or even throughout the evening. But yeah, I think that's it for me. So thanks again. Enjoy your evening, the beer, pizza, and thanks for coming. Any question right now? No? Everyone wants a break, pizza, beer. Okay, you have to wait for another minute, sorry.
So you said you are a senior researcher already.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what was your biggest fail in your experience?
Oh my God. I'm already sweating and you're asking me this. Okay, just as a UX researcher, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, because obviously, I'm just a person. Wow. It's not that I'm perfect that I can think of. There's so many that I cannot pick the best one.
Maybe if I can navigate you, what was also like the biggest learning from it, so you can maybe pick one of those which...
I can tell you one that was the most recent, which I think is very big for a senior person, and I should have thought about it. And it's very recent because it's from this client I was mentioning here, the neobank in Southeast Asia. And we were running a quantitative study on 100 people. And one of the screening question basically means that if people qualify to take part in your research. One of the first question was, what do they do for a living? Because we needed to disqualify people who are developers, designers, marketers, work for financial institutions, and so on. And obviously, there was always this answer at the bottom saying other. And when I got the results of the screening, 34% of the participants clicked on other. So, it could mean two things. Either people that take part in these researches, they already know that this is a screening question, and by clicking on other, they know that they will qualify, thus get paid for taking part. Or, worse, for a researcher, I forgot to input one of the key things that people might be doing in Southeast Asia. And it was, let's say, both, because when we were running another one 2 weeks after that, I added option for stay-at-home parent, or just, taking care of the household and students. And already the number of the other responses went down to 7%. So that was, I think, one of the most recent learnings and quite big, I think, for a senior to learn from. But there are many more. If you're interested, I can talk about those hours. So, any other question? Did it answer it? Perfect, thanks. Any other question I can answer? No, everyone wants pizza, more beer. Yeah, cool, awesome. Thanks, guys, and yeah, enjoy the evening.